The other type of price control that the government could utilize is a price floor, which again, like price ceiling, is exactly what it sounds like. So this sets a minimum price for the good. The good can't go below that price. So let's draw what this looks like. So quantity and the price, supply and demand. So let's say, and this is a classic example, would be the market for labor. So I'm looking at demand and supply of labor. Quantity is the number of people working. The price would be your wage. And let's say the current equilibrium price is $7.25 an hour, and there's 150 million people working at that wage. That's a bit of a simplification, but we get the idea. So a price floor only matters if I set the minimum price above the equilibrium price. So if I set the price up here, price floor, and say the wage can't go below $10 per hour, right? So I'm going to impose a price floor. And the minimum wage is the best example that we have of a price floor. It says the wage can't go below this amount. So what happens, as you would expect, is the number of workers demanded, the quantity demanded is going to be less than the quantity supplied. So we end up with a shortage when we impose a price floor. Higher price, quantity supplied is going to go up, right? So I would rather work at $10 an hour than $7.25. So I'll have more people looking for work at $10 an hour than at $7.25. Of course, firms don't want to hire as many workers at $10 an hour as they do at $7.25, right? So it creates a shortage, in this case, in the labor market. Now, of course, I'm simplifying a lot of components of the minimum wage, right? So we have to think a little bit more carefully about this to complete the story, but we at least have part of the story, right? If you impose a price floor, you're going to see a shortage. Oh, sorry, surplus. I'm sorry, it's a shortage of labor, but this should say surplus here. Sorry about that. The quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded. Right, so there's more people willing to work at that wage than firms are willing to hire. So we have a surplus of labor. So any market where we impose a binding price floor, minimum price above the equilibrium price, we will end up with a surplus, more goods available than people are willing to sell. And another example of this that you can sometimes see are, different points in time, they've imposed price floors in agricultural goods. So go back through history or talk to family members in agriculture, and you will see cases where, so for example, corn, where the government sets a minimum price on corn above the equilibrium price, it creates a surplus. And so there's examples through time of where the government is effectively buying the surplus from the farmers, right? In response to the price being set above equilibrium, you get surplus. Where does it go? Well, it either sits around, or in some cases, the government is going to buy it from the farmers. So again, with a price floor, who wins? Well, who wins sort of depends on the situation, right? So the winners really are the suppliers who get to sell at the higher price. right? So in my minimum wage example, the winners are going to be the people supplying labor that actually get hired. So that's going to be, let's say that's 100 million, right? So it's this number of people that actually get to trade for the good at the higher price. So if I get to work at $10 an hour, that's better than working at $7.25 an hour. Now, who loses are going to be those sellers that were willing to sell at $7.25 an hour, but are not able to sell now. So those sellers willing to sell at the equilibrium price, but can't now. So in the minimum wage example, who wins are the people that get to work at $10 an hour. Who loses are the people that were working at $7.25 an hour that no longer are working, right? So as with a price ceiling, you create a group that wins, you create a group that loses. If we add it all up, generally speaking, the losses outweigh the gains, and a price floor is going to make us worse off. So in a standard, perfectly competitive market, and so you have to ask, is a particular market perfectly competitive or close to it? In a perfectly competitive market, any price control is going to make us worse off. Okay, any price floor or price ceiling will make us worse off. So we'll see various examples of these as we go through the semester, and we'll think harder about the minimum wage as we develop a labor market model more carefully.